Aita for confronting my friend and ruining the vibe of a trip. So I, a 31-year-old female, have a best friend named Alex, who is a 29-year-old female, and she has a boyfriend named Jean, who is a 29-year-old male. Given that, I almost always feel like a third wheel when I hang out with her and Jean. Usually this is fine when we are just hanging out or watching a movie, but it does get awkward sometimes when they are off talking about an interest that I do not share, or cuddling, or whatever. It has been an issue before where I feel like a third wheel, and that Jean does not trust us to hang out alone. However, we have talked through it, and things have been okay. Alex and I went on a 4-hour trip to the city to get matching tattoos at a convention this weekend, and Jean came with us. I had asked if he was coming before, and Alex had said, "Yeah, of course I'm not leaving him behind." "Why would you ask that?" She was kind of confrontational. I said that I was afraid they would go off together during the tattoo convention and leave me alone, which has happened before and is not something I wanted for a matching tattoo experience. They said that, of course, they wouldn't do that, and that they were hurt that I had even thought that about them. I apologized and we moved on. Well, that is exactly what happened. The tattoo booths were quite small, standing room only. When Alex got her tattoo, Jean and I made sure to switch off so that someone was always with her. When my turn came, she sat with me for a bit, talking, which really helped take away the pain of the tattoo for me. Then she went and looked around the convention, which I had no problem with. Then Jean decided he felt left out and went to pick out his own tattoo and sign all the paperwork, so, of course, Alex had to be with him for that. By the time she got back, mine was over. I was really upset and told her so because we had talked about this. She and Jean both said they did not know it would be so quick. They did not want to have a huge wait for Jean to get started on his, etc. I was upset because he could have waited for my turn to be done, but he had to do it right then and take Alex's attention, and she let him. I'm aware I sound jealous. I am aware that there is nothing really to be done. They were apologetic the first night, but I think now they have talked it over between themselves in that way couples do and have decided that I am overreacting. Alex has been acting cold to me since, turning down invitations and not responding to messages. Was I wrong to get upset? I usually do not. I usually move on pretty quickly because I am just happy to have a friend, but this really hurt me. Was I wrong to confront my friend? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. It's understandable to feel frustrated that you can't have best friend time without Jean around. People in relationships need to have their own separate lives, and it's not healthy to be completely inseparable. Have an honest conversation with her about needing some girl time, and if that doesn't change things, it might be best to step back and focus on yourself. Am I the jerk for not helping my mother move back home after she promised she would not go back? I am a 35-year-old male, and my relationship with my 52-year-old mother has always been rocky. Growing up, she left my siblings and me with our grandmother while she lived a life on the streets, caught up in drugs and alcohol. She missed most important events in my life, and if she did show up, she was usually high or drunk. This went on until I graduated from college with my bachelor's degree. In 2019, I was about to earn my master's degree and decided to invite her to the ceremony. To my surprise, she had completely turned her life around. She had been sober for 10 years. She earned a degree and was helping others recover from addiction. I was proud of her. She apologized many times for my difficult childhood, and I forgave her. I did not necessarily need her in my life anymore, but I wanted her to be there for my daughter as a grandmother. From there, our relationship began to heal, and she became an amazing grandmother. After a breakup with my child's mother, I asked my mom to move to the state where I live to help me out. She agreed, and I helped her move in. 5 months later, when my grandmother got sick, my mom left to go back and be with her, leaving me behind. Despite that, I got my life together. Last year, my mom asked to move back, but this time she wanted her own place. I helped her find a house and a job. I rented a truck and spent a lot of time and money moving her back. My wife warned me not to, saying my mom would just move back again once things got tough, but I wanted to give her a chance. My mom promised me this move was permanent and that she wouldn't go back. I made it clear that if she decided to move back, I wouldn't help her again. I also warned her about the small town we live in. It is a one traffic light kind of place, very different from the city life she was used to. I explained she would need to make friends and get involved in the community, or else she'd feel isolated. She promised me she'd be fine, saying she could make friends at church and at her new job. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. She hasn't made any friends and spends her time alone at home, binge-watching TV shows. She barely leaves the house and often complains about how bored and isolated she feels. It has been a year now, and she recently sent a message to the family saying, "The walls are closing in on me," because she has no one and is lonely. I reminded her of our conversation where I warned her about the slow pace of life here and how important it is to make friends. I also told her that I wouldn't help her move back since she knew what to expect. Now, my mom has decided she's moving back at the end of the year. Once again, I told her I wouldn't help because she made me look foolish for trusting her word. I have wasted time and money moving her here only for her to do what everyone said she would. So, am I the asshole for refusing to help her move back? Your actions don't make you a jerk. She's an adult and has to take some responsibility for herself. If she's motivated to move, let her make that happen on her own. Stay on top of those family messages, and if she portrays you unfairly, defend yourself by stating you've been generous and helpful, but it's not in your budget this time. Hopefully the family will understand your position. Am I the jerk for using my parents' health insurance when I didn't have any other choice? Okay, to preface this, I have just moved out a month ago from what is basically a college dorm off campus in Utah. My parents are very Mormon. About 2 years ago, I fully realized that I was transgender, female to male, and started going to therapy for it, paying fully out of my own pocket. About a year ago, when I was originally going to come out to my family and still living at home, my mother had cleaned my room and found my binder. When I got home, we sat down and talked. She said that what I was going through was just a phase, and that I was God's child, and that God doesn't make mistakes. I was lucky that she didn't tell my dad at the time, as he is a very big Republican and conspiracy theorist. When I brought up that Alex Jones was on trial for what he said about Sandy Hook, he said, "I can see how that could be." I went back into the closet for about another month until, through therapy, I was able to come back out of the closet. By that time, my family was a lot more open with their political views and what they thought about transgender people. Halfway through this year, I decided that I was going to move out and start hormone replacement therapy. After searching for a while, I was able to find a doctor nearby who specialized in gender-affirming care and scheduled an appointment. When I went there, I didn't know what the price would be until I arrived, and my card got declined. I asked to know how much the appointment was, and it was about $500. I was worried that I got all this way for nothing, and decided to use my parents' insurance, which I'm currently under. It was through my mother's work, and it would just be seen as hormone-affirming therapy and not as transgender care, so I thought she wouldn't know. There was still a copay of about $250 that I paid out of pocket, and it was the same for the medicine that I was prescribed. Since then, I had been dreading that my parents would find out, and today they did. Today when I was in class, I got a text from my mom asking if I was seeing a new doctor, and if I was seeing them for hormone-affirming care. At this point, I knew I was in trouble. After my girlfriend came over for emotional support, she only heard my side of the conversation. I called my mom. I told her the truth and hoped for the best, but sadly, it was the opposite. She told me that she loved me and I would always be her son, but that if I was going to continue on this route, she would not support me, and I would have to either pay for my own insurance or she would kick me off the family's. I feel bad for using her insurance, but with the uncertainty of whether or not I would be able to get it in the future, I was scared, so I used it. Am I the antagonist? It's tough navigating such a complicated situation, especially with the added pressure from family. Moving out and starting HRT was a brave step, and it's understandable why using the insurance felt necessary given the high costs. The reaction from the mother, while loving, was unfortunately conditional, making an already difficult situation even harder. Honestly, it's a lot to handle, but continuing to prioritize health and well-being is crucial. Am I the jerk for telling my sibling with ADHD that they don't have time blindness? They're just inconsiderate? Important context. I am a 20-year-old male and have a rocky relationship with my 19-year-old sister, despite our almost non-existent age gap. It is a long, complicated story, but one thing I've always hated is the fact that she insists that nothing is ever wrong with me medically. My father randomly dropped our insurance coverage, and because of my mother's ADHD, she keeps forgetting to sue for child support. Due to frequent changes in our lives, I have not had insurance since I was 15, meaning I have had to guess everything wrong with me, with proper research. My sister has denied everything from autism to restless leg syndrome. The biggest issues she has a problem with are my Tourette's and my autism. While I am undiagnosed, it is very obvious I have both. I have had involuntary movements since I was 12, and I passed the criteria for low support needs autism. Almost all of my autistic friends, including my boyfriend, agree that it is pretty likely, and I am not faking. One of the biggest challenges I experience is time blindness. It is not the TikTok, "Oh, I'm just always 15 minutes late" type. I never know what time, day, or year it is. I still forget we are in 2024 and almost ate pudding that expired a year ago because I still thought it was 2023. A week ago, I took the dog outside at 2 in the morning and did not know until I checked a message I received and was shocked. My time blindness is debilitating. I am not late because I just forget a few things. I am late because I try to sleep in and forget I have been trying to brush my hair for 10 minutes. Now for the story, my sister and mother were joking about ADHD and how they are always late. My sister, who is daddy's favorite, still has insurance and got diagnosed. My mom is not diagnosed, but both her daughters, I am adopted, have it, so it is pretty obvious. I watched them and learned their traits, especially since growing up I would stare at them angrily because I was told we needed to leave for school events 15 minutes ago. I learned why they are late. My mom's lateness is because of ADHD. She leaves things all over the house and cannot remember where she left them. Her shoes, keys, coffee, and phone are always in different rooms. My sister's lateness is only half ADHD related. She spends time doing her hair and makeup every day and cares more about that than being on time. When she said, "Yeah, I have time blindness," I got very upset. It makes an excuse for her habits and minimizes a real issue that makes it hard to perform basic functions. I told her that doing her hair and makeup is not time blindness. It is just not caring about being on time. She got angry at me and told me I do not have time blindness and should not talk about it because it is rude to people like me who actually do get diagnosed. My mom agreed, so I just went to my room, and now I am starting to feel like I am at square one of this relationship. So Reddit, am I the antagonist for calling my sister out for being inconsiderate even if I am self-assessed? It's clear that there's a lot of frustration and misunderstanding within the family dynamic. Instead of calling out your sister for her habits, try offering gentle reminders and support. Everyone has their own struggles, and patience can go a long way in improving relationships. Working together to develop coping mechanisms can be more beneficial for everyone involved. Am I the jerk for making my mother-in-law either get a hotel or drive home instead of staying with us? We live 2 hours from my in-laws, but they still come to see us and mostly the grandkids very often. I have asked my husband to help me establish the boundary of no more unexpected drop-ins, especially unexpected sleepovers, particularly on school nights. I believe this is fair, as does my husband, or he would not support me on this. There have already been a couple of times we have had to put our foot down on this, but there are still instances of unexpected pop-ins. For example, the day after asking about the kids' sports schedule, they showed up without notice and expected to come right over after the game. This was awkward as we had not planned to accommodate anyone else for dinner. Today, she texted at 1:00 p.m. saying she was coming into town for one of the kids' games and asked if she could stay the night. I did not see this until 3:00 p.m., but even so, 1:00 p.m. seems very last minute to me and did give me anxiety. My husband told her staying over would not be a good idea as our youngest has been hard to put down lately. She kind of blew up on us. She responded with, "Wow, okay, after all I've done for you, and I'm astonished." She also mentioned her issues driving at night to show how selfish and mean we were being. I said it is not fair to try and guilt trip me when she knew my boundaries and anxieties before leaving. It was on her to have a plan and consideration for us. She is now saying we are not welcoming. I think some people might think I am being the antagonist because while it may give me temporary anxiety, being accommodating to loved ones is important, and we should be able to set aside our personal discomforts for them sometimes. On the other hand, this was not an emergency. This was not a championship game. She has made almost every other game, and if she was not sure she could afford a hotel or drive home that night, it was wrong to assume she could stay over when I have been pretty clear how I feel about that. So, am I the antagonist for making my mother-in-law either stay in a hotel or drive home after she came into town for the kids' game? You are not the cause of this issue. Let her throw her little tantrums, but every time she does, it's crucial to put your foot down hard. It's not fair for her to guilt trip you when she knew the boundaries and anxieties beforehand. This wasn't an emergency or a special event, so assuming she could stay over without notice, despite clear feelings on the matter, is completely unreasonable. Am I the jerk for not speaking out over bigotry? I am a senior in high school. The year's been tough with college applications, creating my portfolio, taking my ACT and my AP classes. Speaking of AP classes, Korean is really draining. I love the subject, but our teacher is a snippy man and the coursework is rigorous. I have to pass this class since I plan on studying language in the future. The moment I sit down in this class, Korean is really all I think about. I barely even talk to the students around me. I especially avoid this one student who has made it his mission to be a major nuisance to every minority. He says a litany of slurs carelessly but excessively around those who are not affected by the slurs, in this case, me. In casual, one-sided conversations directed at me, he will drop ableist and colorist slurs and complain about his own skin tone keeping girls away from him. It makes me uncomfortable, but I do not say anything. I know what he is like to people who do not like him. I have seen him pester and nag people to no end, trying to debate them and considering himself the winner when they do not want to talk to him. The thought of dealing with him in Korean horrifies me. I will genuinely drop the class if he starts antagonizing me since our seats are assigned. When he gets weird, I start talking to someone else in Korean or just act really curt with him. Recently, some of my disabled friends have noticed me at the table group and pointed out that I do not do anything to stop him, despite having the privilege to. They are saying I am facilitating his behavior. I definitely see how my actions can count as being complicit in what he is doing. The only way I have justified my actions to myself is because of the class I am in. It is a tough academic environment where I either thrive or fail, and causing chaos or having to explain basic human decency to him mid-class is not something I have the energy to do. I do not want to sit next to someone who hates my guts all year. I have already talked to some anonymous school tip lines about his behavior. I do not know what other steps to take. Am I being privileged here? Should I say something? And if so, how do I go about it without it affecting me? Am I the antagonist for not telling him to stop talking? Navigating this situation is really tough, especially when balancing academic goals with addressing bigotry. You've already taken a proactive step by reporting his behavior to anonymous tip lines, which shows you're not indifferent to the problem. It's important to recognize that silence can feel like complicity, but you don't necessarily have to confront him directly. Think about the kind of person you want to be, and whether there are other ways to address the issue without compromising your own well-being. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.